The Cigar Nerds Podcast.
And welcome back to the Cigar Nerds Podcast. I'm your host, Smokin' Joe.
I'm Brad Jackson.
He's here.
And has no beer.
Oh, we got some whiskey, though.
I did have some bourbon. So this episode's going to be great. That's what every episode should start with.
I mean, we used to do the beer reviews, and we haven't done like a good drunk episode in a long time. Maybe we should pour some whiskey for the next episode and get all the way up.
I mean, I'd be down to get a little toasty. Like that's
Call
gonna
it
have
the
to be
getting canceled episode.
There's a pretty high risk of that just about every episode that we do.
That reminds me, we were done. I gotta tell you something a skit I saw that was hilarious, but yeah, I can't say it on something that's going to be broadcast out. So anyway, this is the part of the show where I usually say, hey, what are we smoking, Brad? But he's not got a cigar, so I'll tell you what I'm smoking. I'm smoking the Kristoff Veinte, which is fancy words for 20, because it is the Kristoff 20th anniversary. It has a Brazilian wrapper over Indonesian binders and fillers from Nicaragua and Pennsylvania.
Well, you'll be happy to know that I'm rocking a Cato bar. Dragon fruit lemonade on fucking beast mode, all right?
Dragon fruit lemonade.
It's delicious.
Dragging these nuts on your face. Yeah, this is
This is what happens when I have to leave work and, I'm like, Joe, it's been 3 times that I bailed on you. I should definitely make it a point to show up for this episode. Otherwise, I really start feeling bad.
Or I just need to start buying 2 cigars when I go to pick up the podcast cigars. So I'm like, I'm going to bet he's going to forget to not have time to go to the shop. And then he'd be like, I've got cigars.
You know what's going to happen? You're going to be like, motherfucker canceled. I wish I had a cigar. There's a cigar.
That's what happened. Well, fuck it. I'm smoking this thing. I'll just go buy another one before it's time before I record again. This Veinte, it's a little bit stronger than kind of the average Kristoff. It's
So how does that compare? Like, I don't remember when, but we bought the pissed off Kristoff thinking that
Yeah, with a name like that, it should have some strength, but most of their stuff is in that medium range where, they say this one's a 4 out of 5 on strength, so it's at least stronger than that pissed off Kristoff, and it's kind of like a good whiskey where it's strong, but it doesn't hurt. It's like smooth, even though it's strong. If that makes any sense to anyone other than me. So I can tell it's like got some strength to it, but it's more. There's still some like cream and pepper and like a chocolatiness to it. So it's kind of like a strong mocha coffee would be with a shot of bourbon in it. Damn, I should have done that earlier when I was having coffee. I had the bourbon. I should have poured some of my coffee.
I mean, or you should have just poured bourbon. That would have been a thing.
Yeah. You got bourbon in your coffee? No, I got bourbon in a coffee cup. So it looks like I'm drinking coffee.
I mean, that's what God intended for the natural earth.
Well, speaking of some old school shit, we're going back to the 90s and talking about Xmen 97.
I hope we're not.
And if you've got
Wait, going back, are you talking about the original animated series from the 90s?
No,
I didn't watch that one.
The new animated series from the 90s is called Xmen 97.
It's not from the 90s. It's too flashy.
But if you've got to fight a Sentinel Prime, you should call in the Strike Force. StrikeForceEnergy.com. Use your promo code Cigar Nerds for 20% off your order. Comes in a tiny little tin pouch that you can, stick in your prison wallet and smuggle it anywhere. I don't know. Don't know where I was going with that analogy, but there it is.
It's small. It's compact. You can travel with it. It's convenient.
You can hide it like Wolverine's claws. Schnick.
Unless that one guy does that one thing to the claws. We'll get into that later.
But we'll be right back with the main show. And welcome back to me, my Xmen.
Calm down, Charles. Calm down.
Hey, you look more like Charles than I do.
I look like Charles, who's been lazy for a week and hasn't got around to shaving the head. And I grew a beard.
Yeah, I'm starting to look a little more like Beast. It's dyed blue.
I'll probably have a need for a wheelchair before too long as well.
Yeah, you reach that age where you just get up and things hurt and you don't remember what you did.
Oh, hell, I don't even have to get up now for things to hurt. Like, I've just accepted things are going to hurt regardless.
Yeah, my knee was all jacked up the other day, and I was like, "What'd you do?" I'm like, "I don't know. I think I stepped funny getting out of my office or something." It's like it's not like I fell during like a workout or something. I just like got up and my knee fucking hurts. I've got no explanation. But then I went to Blade Show and walked like 6.5 miles. So that could have been the other reason why my knee was hurting.
Did you not do your calisthenics beforehand? You know, before an exercise regimen, you've got to stretch.
Yeah, I did. I looked at my my phone tracker after Blade. Well, I did Blade Show and then I came home and cut grass, and I had like 6.5, 7 miles that I'd walked that day between the fucking convention center and cutting grass.
Living that active lifestyle.
Yeah.
Speaking of active life, the Xmen have active lives too.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar, way back in the 90s, 92 to 96 to be exact, we had the first like X-Men animated series, which was what you're like, oh, cartoon, kids. No, like this shit like went hard than it had any right to. And it was like the writing and everything on it was just as like, it's like, this is as good as like the comic book writing. You know, it's they didn't really dumb it down. It was like, they told they told the fucking Dark Phoenix saga, like all kind of like shit we had seen in comic book form, like now in like live action. But Disney Plus, now that they have all the Marvel shit, came up with an idea like, hey, let's go back and instead of doing a whatever reboot or a new series, we're just going to start where the original series like ended. So literally like X-Men 97 starts a year after like the original series ended, and like it's like after I watched this I was like, man, I gotta go back and watch that original.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like, after sitting through like all 5 seasons of the original, because all that shit's on Disney Plus too, I'm like, this literally like starts where the other season ends. And so they basically just made a 6th season of the original series.
But man, I don't know, like most of the time I have a gripe with modern animation and stuff like that, but the artistic style and everything else of this series was just awesome. And I love how, you know, you got both the 3D and then, you know, in some episodes, you know, you got a combination of both 2 and 3D.
Yeah, because it looked a lot like the original animation style with that when it was still like cell shaded or whatever, but you could tell it was CGI because the action sequences, they were able to do like, you know, kind of in-universe camera moves that you couldn't really do that well in like the original series, but it still looked like that 90s animation, even though it's like, I know this isn't 90s animation because the movement and kind of camera angles and shit are so much more polished.
Everything else, it was just, that was the first thing for me, because that ultimately, it's kind of like listening to a podcast or a video. Like, it could be the greatest thing in the world, but if the audio quality sucks, I'm never going to listen to it. You know, and I feel the same way with the animation. Like, I'm like, I just can't get into this, you know, because I can't get past the CGI or, you know, whatever. And
yeah, sometimes it looks super computer animated, or they go that almost hyper realistic animation. And even if they did that, like, I mean, whatever, Castlevania and stuff like that, like that anime style animation wouldn't have really fit with this because, like I said, it's a continuation of that original series. So if the art style just like was so vastly different, I think it would have taken you out of the story. Where this was like, you can tell it's like new, cleaner animation, but they kind of dialed it down enough that you're like, yeah, I could see this being something from the 90s if I didn't didn't know better.
Well, and I think the other thing too that really separated this series is this was so much more than just a nostalgia trip. You know, I feel like oftentimes with so many, you know, new series and films and that sort of thing, like, oh, this was really cool back in the day, so, you know, for the folks now in their, you know, 40s and up, like, we're going to let them relive their childhood. And this did so much more. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, like you were saying, the original focused a little bit on, you know, it's a dark story, you know, it's very much like us and them. And when I was a kid, I'm looking at it from a cartoon perspective. Like, after watching Xmen 97, I'm like, man, I really need to go back and revisit this as an adult and actually...
Yeah, it definitely hits on a different level when you go back and watch it. You're like, man, all right, this season, like, obviously made for fans that are now in their 40s or whatever. So I'm like, did they make it more serious in this new version? And then I go back and watch the original. I'm like, now this shit's just as, like, fucking serious as...
But I mean,
I just didn't realize. I was like, yeah, Wolverine cuts things, and now you're like, oh damn, this is like some deep shit.
But you know, it's almost the same as, you know, watching the Goonies as a kid, and the adults are laughing, and you're like, huh, what's going on? And then you're old enough to watch it as a teenager and get the inside jokes and the references, and like, all right, this isn't so much of a kid film anymore.
I mean, the one thing I did notice, I think. You remember, like, 90s comic books and animation, like, Rogue was still hot, but I think they made her ass smaller in the new series than in the original.
Well, you know, it's funny. Like, you know, Reddit cracks me up and some of the other, you know, web forums out there, because the biggest complaint is from people like, she's less curvy. Where's the ass and where's the tits? And it's like, really, you can't get past that? Like,
it was just kind of funny. I mean, it's not like a big, but it's like, yeah, you're like, yeah, the 90s were a little more sexualized, which we probably shouldn't have been looking at that shit as a kid anyway.
I mean, you know, I don't know if it was any more, you know, I mean, look at modern society, you know, there's more sex and, you know, fucking access to porn and everything else than, you know, ever before. You know, shit, if we want to look at porn in the 90s, where were we going?
Gas station nudie magazines.
Exactly. Like, you know, I mean,
or animation. those bootleg fucking
but
anime videos.
You know, fast forward into the late 90s and you could look at bitmaps. Bitmap boobs.
Another thing I appreciate about them doing this is it wasn't just like a continuation in name only. They went and got most of the original actors to reprise their roles. I believe Cyclops is a newer actor, but we've got the original Rogue, the original Storm, the original Wolverine, the original Gambit, the original Beast. I think the Magneto is a new actor, but he sounds a lot like they got for the actors that they had to replace that couldn't return for. I think mostly a few people have, you know, died or retired since then. They got people that could get a close enough kind of impression of the original actors' voices, so it still sounds, even those people that are new characters sound enough like the original cast that it's like. And Disney Plus has these things, it's I think they're usually called like Assembled, where they do like a small documentary on any of their like original series. And if you watch, like, I recommend watching the kind of the documentary on Xmen 97, where they talk to a lot of that original cast. For the most part, they didn't use professional voice actors. They went out and got like theater people to play these roles. So they got like real actors to voice these characters instead of getting, you know, the professional voice actors. And that's why like some of their performances are just so like over the fucking top. Especially, you know, fucking Storm can monologue like a motherfucker. Storm and Magneto, and it's like, yeah, they got like actual big theatrical actors to play these roles, which in the 90s, that's not something that was really done, I think, in like anime. I mean, you got like fucking, you look, Troy Baker's like credited on damn near everything because he's a professional voice actor. But yeah, it's like getting these people that are big performance people and then, hey, do these voices for this, fucking comic book show, made it, that much more like, kind of epic, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, there wasn't really anything that I was like, oh, that's different or whatever. I think if anything, Rogue's Cajun accent really came through. Like, I was talking to some people, and it's like, why is she going so hard on the Southern dialect? And it's like, that's not Southern. That's straight up Louisiana.
That's Louisiana Southern. And and that's, like I said, the same actress. I mean, for the most part,
I mean, like people have also too, like, I can't like, it cracks me up as long as the Simpsons were around, and it's like, why is Bart's voice changing? And it's like, this lady's been doing it for damn near 40 years.
Yeah, your voice changes over time, and yeah, you can.
And it's crazy to me how many people don't realize, Bart was voiced by a lady.
Yeah, you can tell like a little bit of voice, has aged a little bit, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, this is the same people that I grew up with back in when this first came out. Because at that point we had Batman the animated series, and we had some but as far as like Marvel properties, other than Spider-Man, there wasn't a whole lot of like good animated comic book shit out there. And like Xmen, because back in the day it was like you were either a Marvel guy or a DC guy, so it was like I was always a little more Marvel, and then it was like fucking Xmen, fuck yeah, we finally got like I was gonna say live action, but animated. Get to see Wolverine on TV instead of in the comic books.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. I mean, that was another refreshing take, from this series, is everybody got ample screen time and everything else. Like, it wasn't just, hey, here's the team, but everybody knows Wolverine's a badass, so we're just going to kind of, let him take forefront. And, that was kind of my concern originally, was, we've had Logan, we've had a lot of, live action. And
he did get his own animated series, like, I think like early 2000s. They had like Wolverine and the X-Men. It only made it like, I think 2 seasons. I after I finished watching the original, I tried to go watch that, and then I'm like, this isn't nearly as good as the original.
Yeah, but 90s. I mean, just the true, I don't even want to say team dynamics, I mean, essentially family makeup. Yeah, I just loved how everything was expanded on, and it wasn't just, hey, we're going to give you a backstory for everyone. It's like, no, you're going to get firsthand trials, tribulations of what it's like for these people being on the outside, trying to do good for folks that are never going to appreciate, what they've done for them.
Yeah. And then also making Magneto a good guy for at least for a little while. Seeing him like put into that, because if you're not familiar with the original series, Professor X got shot and had to be taken away by aliens to heal, but the rest of the world assumes he's dead. And now, like, because they're like, yeah, we can take him and save his life, but he'll never be able to return. And they're like, all right, whatever, So Professor's, retired, and Scott's running the team, and then it finds out like, oh no, the Professor left the school and everything to Magneto. And Magneto's like, I want to honor Charles's dream and be a good guy now, and I'm going to lead the X-Men.
Well, I think it was done in such a fashion that, you always talk about, you love having, a villain that you can like.
Yeah.
And never once does Magneto say, I love these people. It's a ruse, whatever, he stands by his truth on, humanity is shit, but he's willing to kind of, swallow that pride for humanity to be like, look, this is your chance to prove me wrong, and I hope you do prove me wrong.
Yeah,
but
like, here's, I'm going to honor Charles's memory by like trying, at least giving this a chance. Like, I think y'all are going to fuck me in the end, but I'm going to give humanity a chance. And like, of course Cyclops, because they've been battling for like years, doesn't trust him, but just like the random good shit, like, it's the Ferris wheel's collapsing at the pier, and he like, shows up and like saves everybody, and they're like, fucking Magneto's saving humans, what the hell? And then like, goes and saves the Morlocks, and then he's like, hey, by the way, like, I took all this money and like flew them to like a safe country. Like, like, why the fuck didn't y'all do that shit? Like, Charles was rich. Y'all could have like, gave these people a plane ticket to a better place so they're not living in the fucking sewers of New York. I sent them to a damn island with a whole bunch of other mutants. I mean, it didn't end up good for them later on, but he's like, yeah, why didn't you like do some charity work, fuckers? Why does the villain got to come in and think of all this shit?
But, that was a fresh take, on just, like, because that was always my thing. I was like, okay, he's gonna fake, it's just gonna be a manipulation attempt, but if humans weren't such pieces of shit, maybe we would have had a different outcome.
Yeah, because there's a speech later on, but we're toward the end that I like, and we'll get into that later. But episode 1, like, has some of the most comic book, like, episode 1 is like, here's the nostalgia, we're gonna get you hooked, and then we're gonna tell you all a serious ass story for the rest of these episodes. But that one where they're like, they find the whatever Friends of Humanity are like, using Sentinel parts to build like fucking like Mega Man blasters. And they're like, we got to find the whatever Trask. He's got to have a new like master mold. And they're like, all right, well, we've tracked him to this junkyard in the desert, and then they get attacked by fucking like damn zombie Sentinels. But when the plane blows up, and like fucking all the X-Men, like, the flying ones, like, all right, we got this. Run around and catch everyone who can't fly. And then Cyclops is like, by him, like, good job, X-Men. See y'all on the ground. And then just fucking dives, and then like uses his optic blast to like come do the superhero landing. And then he's like, to me, my X-Men. I'm like, that's the most fucking like that's like the centerfold like splash. Like, there's always like in a comic book, there's that one page where it's like a full page like scene. It's like, yeah, that's the fucking cinematic scene right there. It was like, I was like, all right, Cyclops kind of a badass in that moment.
Yeah, I mean,
does not give a fuck. He's falling out of an airplane. Like, no, nobody saved me. I'm good. Like, just fucking superhero landing with the.
We're going. Blast. I don't need wings.
Yeah.
But that's part of what was cool. Was truly seeing how powerful. Because I mean, it's like, okay, mutants, they've got abilities, and we've seen them, do shit, but like the scale of which they're able to harness their powers and utilize their powers, I think this series just turned all the way up to 1,000
action sequences in the original series, but they were still limited by the technology of the time. And now, like, with computer animation, like, yeah, they were able to like do some serious action sequences, and it was like, oh shit, this is badass. Like, I like where technology has allowed them to tell a much like more, I guess, cinematic story. Because those, like I said, those action sequences, and when it goes from like, you're like, standard 2D animation, then all of a sudden it's like, fucking getting camera pans and 3D shit, and it's like this the way it's like weaved into like the regular story. I was like, oh fuck, this is fucking awesome. But yeah, that fight in the desert or in the junkyard full of like half working Sentinels I was like, all right, fuck, you gave me the whole X-Men team, and you gave me like Sentinels in the first episode. I'm like, all right, we're back. I'm back in the 90s, son. where's my cereal and my Saturday morning cartoons? I'm down.
What was your cereal of choice for said Saturday morning cartoons?
I was always a Frosty Flake kid. It's probably when I was fat, but just fucking sugar encrusted cornflakes.
Had a lot of Frosted Flakes and Fruit Loops, but not the real Fruit Loops. Like we had like the knockoff store brand Fruit Loops that just weren't ever as good.
I like the occasional Captain Crunch, but that shit always like just tore up my fucking gums. That shit's like eating rocks.
Like I can remember like the roof of my mouth. And
it tasted good, but you were like, you didn't want to have a salty snack after that because.
And then what was it? Cookie Crisp.
Oh yeah, all right,
because that made milk delicious.
Oh, and I gotta say the combining of powers, because I remember playing like the Marvel, some of those Marvel fighting games and shit where you get like the team up moves, and you like when they're going up against like a Master Mold and like fucking Gambit just jumps on Wolverine's back and fucking powers up his like claws, so when he jumps he just like fucking decapitates the giant Sentinel. I'm like, or Bishop's, his powers is he can absorb other energy and redirect, and he's just like, hey Cyclops, like light me up, and like fucking Cyclops blasts him, and then he like just fucking takes out like a whole room of these demon things. I was like, fuck yes, that's like straight up video game moves right there.
Well, I mean, you had some straight up video game episodes later on.
The Motendo.
That's not mine.
Oh. Yeah, so we had the little and of course like once Magneto takes over, he gets has to go face trial. And he's like, well, if I defend myself in court, will y'all trust me then? And like, all right, I surrender. Let's go. But then, the Friends of Humanity builds like a kind of a cool like laser rifle thing that's supposed to like disrupt mutant powers, and Storm takes a shot protecting Magneto and loses her abilities. So we get side quest episodes of her out in the Arizona or New Mexico or wherever with Forge trying to get her powers back, and then you get the one-off episode of Jubilee celebrating her 18th birthday. She's like, I just want to play video games like back in the day. And like, hey, there's a video game in my room. This must be a birthday present. Oh, nope, it's a trap by the weird interdimensional guy who basically lives off of ratings. He's like,
but dude, doesn't that
so
so
TV
much?
shows are old. Like video games are the new thing. So I'm gonna trap y'all in this fucking Nintendo.
If that's not so much modern society, I don't know what is. It's like, I'll just refuse to play. You little caveat here. Death in game equals death in life.
And I like some of the scenes where they showed like them playing like the levels of the game. It was actual scenes from the Xmen.
Oh yeah, dude!
Arcade game.
Like it flashing from 3D to 2D, and everything else was just so awesome to me.
I've played this game. This is like literally like the background from like the Xmen.
I remember us going
system.
to Flashback Games and playing that shit, and then realizing that all the years of abusing our wrist and fingers behind keyboards and whatnot, how much you hurt because there was no such thing as ergonomics back then.
Yeah, and we evolved into the home game system where we learned to play video games sitting down, and it's like, man, it's been a long time since I've had to stand in an arcade for an hour. It's like my fucking back getting hurt from like having to stand up.
Things
all this long.
hit a little bit different when you don't have to feed a machine quarters.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but freaking Magneto can, Matthew Watterson, who played Magneto in this series, that dude can fucking monologue like a motherfucker. He had something like the writing on this show was so good. Like I mean, Magneto just has some like just great speeches.
Well, I mean, we had some concerns, you know, before the episode or the season dropped because there was some, you know, serious staff turnover. And in the past, that's been sort of a major red flag for how well a thing's going to be done. And maybe because the series was pretty well complete or whatever, you know. But
well, the original
far surpassed.
The original Magneto actor David Himblin died in 2020, so that's one of the reasons he was unable to return.
But I'm talking about, you know, the series releasing, like they lost the director or some shit like that. There was some.
I don't even remember hearing about all that, but yeah, Disney's had
we did a thing on news about it. I can remember, you know, before shit.
Yeah, I felt like this one was like teased forever. It was one of those that's like, yeah, man, Xmen '97, and it was like a year probably.
But at the same time, like
announced to actually getting it.
Like going back and watching the trailers, I'm like, this is how trailers need to be done, because it didn't try to give everything away.
And can we talk about the fucking theme song too? Like they recreated like the original X-Men. Like I've seen videos where people comparing like shot for shot like the original intro to the new intro, and they've changed some of the visuals in it, but yeah, it's like it's almost like if you didn't know better, you're like, this is the original opening from the 90s cartoon. And it's like after watching it so many times, it's got that fucking song like stuck in my head. Like walking around humming that shit.
Such a badass song.
Yeah, do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube and look up Power Glove X-Men. It's the metal version of that song. And that fucking slaps, son.
Whoa. Do people say slaps anymore?
Yeah.
Is that a 90s term?
Maybe. Oh. But yeah, then that shit took... Alright. You watched it like... you know, fucking powered through. I watched it like week to week. The Genoshan episode. Fuck. It's like, yeah, I'm having a good time. And then that Genoshan episode hits and it goes like full anime and you're like, holy fuck, they just killed like everybody.
Well, that was another big thing. Like, this series was no holds bar. You know, it wasn't afraid to be like, oh, you love this person? Like, and nobody in this was just, you know, kind of cannon fodder. Like, it's like, oh, we're going to take out some key fucking players here. And,
yeah, I mean, they killed a bunch of fucking people. It was like, you know, Godzilla Sentinel attacking Genoshan.
I mean, I almost had the, you know, kind of going back to Avengers and fucking, you know, Thanos snaps and you just see all these people turn to ash, and like I was like just kind of speechless, like, oh fuck, like this just happened.
And it ended with pretty sure Gambit was dead, and I'll get to his death for in a second because he went out like a fucking G. But you also see Magneto getting like just blasted trying to defend a group of Morlocks. So you're like, fuck, is everybody dead? And then the next episode is a back to the Storm side quest and Professor X, you know, at checking in with him. So we're like, yeah, like watching it week to week, you get this like fucking this gut punch of an episode where you're like, fuck, everybody's dead, and you have to wait a week to see like what happened, and then nothing. It's like it's a fucking one-off episode. You're like, god damn it, you motherfuckers! Is Magneto dead? What the fuck? So like, at least you didn't have to like suffer like 2 weeks to get like the find out what happened at Genosha. But yeah, it was like, I was like, oh fuck, man. I'm like,
I mean, I will say that since downgrading my Disney Plus subscription, I absolutely felt like I was watching TV. Like, and it's not like, oh, we're gonna pause for a commercial break here or something. It'd just be like right in the middle of like this epic ass thing, and What? 2 minutes of ads? Get fucked. No, I'm not giving you $20 a month.
Yeah, I've still got the ad-free shit. Yeah, because that's the problem with the ad tier is like the algorithm doesn't. It's just the algorithm's like, all right, it's time for an ad. There's not someone like saying, all right, here's a resting pot where I can drop an ad in. No, it's just like you just get it.
Or right before something major.
Yeah.
Like, no, it'd be like right in the heart of something. I was like,
motherfucker,
this is the worst timing ever. Like, so for me, at 2 minutes, like I can only imagine what it was like for the rest of the people trying to watch in real time and having to wait a week.
2 weeks, because like we wait a week and then we got like a bullshit episode that was just about. I mean, it's kind of cool. Storm getting her powers back and them bringing the professor back in. But yeah, it was like there's nothing about Genosha. Like fuck. Is Magneto dead? God damn it! Pretty sure Remy died, but I was like, but it was still like up in the arms if Magneto was dead. It's like, God damn, now I gotta wait a whole another week to find out what the fuck happened.
I don't know the funeral service for Gambit, like that hit on a different level. You know,
Yeah.
Just oftentimes you think about, you know, the music and everything else. No, this was just quiet. It was somber, and you know, it was, you know, he was a gambler. You know, he would just say, you know, hey, it's in the cards. It's all luck.
But yeah, that even before that, you know, Rogue like basically tells him like, you know, we can't be together because I can't touch you. I can actually touch Magneto, and he needs me to like be his wife so we can rule this, you know, help the mutants, yada yada yada. And then he still basically sacrifices himself because Magneto just gets blasted, and Rogue like, you know, is like, I'm gonna take this thing down. And he's like, no, you'll fucking die if you do that shit. But she's not thinking straight because she's pissed off, and he fucking hits her with his motorcycle to like keep her from getting blasted, and then attacks the thing himself. And then basically gets impaled, and then just fucking, my name is Remy LeBeau, you will remember it, and fucking charges up the Godzilla monster like, you stabbed me, but now I'm gonna, you know, fucking blow you up from the inside. But he was just, I mean, just went out like such a fucking G. I was like, oh, I mean, could not have gotten a better, like, you know, if he stays dead, because it's comic books, no one ever stays dead. But yeah, I mean, that was just fucking such a good episode. You were like, holy shit, like this is definitely not, you know, I was having fun, and then y'all dropped this on me. I'm like, oh shit, this is like some serious shit.
Like, well, I mean, not only that, but I mean, you know, the whole dilemma between, you know, Cyclops and Jean Grey and the clone and the baby and all that shit. Like,
yeah, we ain't even talked about that episode, like, where we find out, like, you know, Jean shows up. I need the Xmen. Are like, we've already got a pregnant Jean, right? I like that before that, in that episode where they're, you know, they're all like at the UN, and Wolverine's home alone with Jean, and she's like, he's coming, and he's like, who? Apocalypse? Like, she's like, no, the baby, you idiot. But then you find out that, like, at some point in history, like, Jean had been captured, and Scott had apparently, you know, knocked up a clone of Jean. And that episode too was cool, where she was like, turned herself into the Goblin Queen and went all goth chick, and and you know, they've got to rescue the baby, who ends up getting infected by a technovirus. So like, well, we got to send him to the future. And of course, if you read the comics, you know, he eventually becomes Cable at some point in the future. But yeah, that episode where, like, you know, she basically turned the mansion into a house of horrors was fucking pretty badass. I'm like, all right, now we're doing like fucking horror movie shit. This is badass.
got people coming out of the TVs and shit.
Went full like fucking The Ring. People crawling out of the TV and fucking like Beast like waiting on the elevator, and the door opens up and there's just a giant face, and he's like, I think one of us is in the wrong place. But yeah, the episode after the Genosian one, I think it's called Bright Eyes, where we finally start getting the reveal of our actual bad guy this season. But Rogue's fucking vengeance spree was bad. I mean, it's like,
oh yeah,
fucking,
going to this black site and just fucking doing work,
fucking tossing shit, like flying sidekicks a fucking tank. And General Ross is in there. It's like, what are y'all panicking about? This facility was built to hold the Hulk. And then she just rips the roof off the place and like, hey, my daddy always said it's easier to break into a prison than it is to, break out. Where the fuck is, Gyrick? He's the one that knows where to get, the Sentinel dude. And they send her to some other like hidden facility like up in the mountains, and Cap shows up, and she just fucking takes his shield. He's like, yeah, they've transferred him to Mexico. I'm waiting for like government approval because I'm work for the government. And she's like, well, why don't you just fuck that? Let's go kick these people's ass. He's like, well, my hands are tied, Rogue. I can't until I get government approval. It wouldn't be right to see me invading Mexico.
Hands are tied. You won't need this.
Yeah, and just chunks his fucking shield like out into nowhere, and he's just like, that bitch. But that was just so fun. Oh, your hand's tied. You can't help the mutants, huh? Well, I guess you're not gonna need this thing. Fing.
Which is kind of crazy because, you would think. I mean, I get it. The Avengers are much more political. They're not the outcast, but it's like.
So yeah, they gotta kind of, so they gotta kind of play by the rules of the government.
But at the same time, it's like, hey, you guys, all have powers and whatnot. Like, you're not exactly normies yourself.
I did like how they kind of sprinkled other. I mean, this was definitely an X-Men centric show, but you got to see a lot of the other like Marvel heroes. Like it would flash to reactions of like Spider-Man and Daredevil, and you even see at one point Doctor Strange performing surgery in a hospital, and like Omega Red and some of the other like X-Men adjacent people, and you even get kind of in the Apocalypse era, you get you see Cap and Iron Man there with the consulting with the president, and even King T'Challa, and the Wakandans and whatnot. So it's like, while they stayed primarily an X-Men story, you got to see a lot of these other Marvel MCU characters, and even they barely used Morph in like the original series, except for a few episodes where he's in this whole thing. And I liked how they used him, where he was just switching from character to character using powers that he needed. And it was kind of cool being able to see those guys like on the X-Men team by using, kind of Morph as a fill-in for that. Like, especially like, all right, we're going up with some kind of big bad. I better turn into the Hulk. And he's like, Morph smash.
Our Quicksilver.
Yeah. Or like when they're falling out of the plane, he turns into like, Archangel and yeah, it was like all these, and no different. I can't remember some of the. I recognize the characters, but I can't remember the name. But yeah, like his way of just like switching from character to character and using the powers that were best needed for the situation. It was like I like that. They gave that character a lot more to do this series than they did in like the original series.
Yeah, and I felt like a lot of the characters got that. I don't remember where I was going. Lost it. It's gone.
Even Jubilee was like, got a lot more. She was kind of like the kid sidekick in the original, but in this one she's like legitimately like fighting alongside the X-Men and
Spirit Fingers.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, if ever you're at a rave, it would be awesome to have a Jubilee. But
yeah, you don't need glow sticks. You can just do like indoor fireworks.
I mean, dude, I think that legit is how they did the sound effects.
Yeah, that so they, and then the Storm centric episodes with her kind of getting through her guilt and learning to be powerful again, because she's like, I'm kind of tired of fighting. I kind of wonder what it'd like to be human. And then she becomes human. She's like, man, being a human sucks.
Well, I mean, I think therefore,
And I agree with you. Being a human sucks.
She was just so eaten by, grief and everything else, and just, fear, realistically. And, watching her, progress, without the powers, really took on a different light for me as far as, her perspective, because she was always such a powerful character, I mean, but watching her just, stripped down to nothingness is just like...
Yeah, when she's like, I can't feel the wind. I can't... Yeah, and it's like, oh, that was like just...
And then you get a fucking monkey on your back. That's when the demons arise.
The giant fucking demon crow thing. And even like, Ford shows up and like, does some Doctor Strange shit. He's like, well, my mother was a shaman. I guess some of those things like, I remembered some of that shit.
Always just remember the line from Predator. It's fucking voodoo magic, man.
Yeah. But yeah, the ultimate reveal eventually is our bad guy is Bastion, who is basically a human sentinel. Like a sentinel from the future came back and like infected his daddy, who then gave birth to a mutant / sentinel. So he has his mutant ability is he can control machines, but then he's also like part machine. And that dude, legit creepy. The way he can just like be so like, he's not like a Skeletor, like just screaming and yelling. He's like always like just kind of super calm and matter of fact while he's telling you, I'm going to kill all you motherfuckers. And it's just like, just his like kind of just nonchalant, like friendly way of saying things made him like even more creepy than he already was. Just that level of like, not
I operate on ones and zeros. It's all I know.
Yeah, fucking Bastion was just fucking dark as shit. He starts to lose his shit by the end, but yeah, when he first starts off is like fuck it. When the reveal of that Magneto's alive, he's like, got him tied down and just playing like old 50s music. I'm gonna give you a nice shave here, clean you up so you look good when I fucking kill you later. It's like, oh, this dude's like fucking psycho. But like the way he's like just so like calm makes him like even more menacing.
It's scenes like that make me question every time I go to a barber shop. I'm like, pull out the straight razor and it's like, is this the end? Have I pissed this guy off at at some point in my life?
Am I about to get the slitty?
Yeah.
And yeah, the rise of the apparent, because his whole plan is he's been secretly implanting people with nanotechnology and turns like thousands and thousands of people into human sentinels, and they're straight up like, it's like Night of the Zombies, man. They're like this fucking all these human sentinels, just everyone turning on the Xmen. And I love, it's a stupid joke because nine, or no in German is like 9, and of course like they're attacking the mansion and they're about to like try to like kill Rogue because she's in a coma because she got fucked up by one earlier, and then Wolverine just jumps up and he's like, I got 6 reasons why this is a bad idea, and pulls out his claws. Then all of a sudden Nightcrawler like appears with like 3 swords. He's like, no, my friend, 9 reasons. And then like just proceeds to go like full fucking Highlander on these these human sentinels. Yeah, like a dude with a dual wielding, tri-wielding swords. I've never seen that before. I'm like, respect, dude. Fucking got one in his tail, 2 in his hands, and it's just like him and Wolverine just like going back and forth, just slicing motherfuckers up. It's like, these people might be humans. We might be able to turn them back. Wolverine's like, fuck that. Just ripping people in half and shit.
They made their choice. Or their choice was made for them. Who knows?
But I like, the lady who was kind of in on the whole thing, but claimed she didn't know that like the extent of Bastion's plan. She's like, I didn't know anything about Genosha, so she feels guilty and frees Magneto. But she has this speech where she's like, because she was there on Genosha when the attack happened. She's like, I felt a lot of things, and and it wasn't like the fear or the blood or the death that got to me. It was the one nagging thought that kept going through my head that after all this time, Magneto was right. He's like, he's been warning us for years that this war is coming, and like, yeah, like I realized Magneto was right all this time that humanity is fucked, and and of course, like, Magneto, that final ultimate betrayal, like he's like, yeah, I tried to be the good guy, and I had to watch a kid who I promised would never have to be scared again, like looking at me as he got disintegrated, because I couldn't save him. Like, no, fuck this. Like, y'all are all on your own. I'm gonna EMP the entire fucking world. I cut off the Sentinels, but I'm taking my asteroid. I'm going to fucking space. Fuck all y'all. Mutant, human, whatever. I'm done with this fucking place. Like, I'm just gonna turn the lights off and get the fuck out of here.
Kind of makes you realize how Thanos got to where he did. I mean, because he was very indiscriminate. It's like 50% of everything gone.
Yeah.
Boom. Except Magneto took more the nihilist approach, and it's like, it's all gonna die.
Yeah, he's like, I've got this asteroid. If y'all want to come, I'm gonna build a new Genosha on my asteroid. So if anybody can get up here, you're welcome. And he's like, I invite y'all to come with me. The offer's been made. The door is always open. But yeah, this planet's doomed. I'm not saving these motherfuckers. So if anybody wants to, come live with me on my asteroid, you're more than welcome. We're gonna have pizza on Tuesdays, but everyone else, y'all are just fucked.
Why is it everybody, things get bad and just automatically, better whisk myself off to space now.
I'm gonna start my own planet with hookers and blow. Blackjack and hookers, yeah, whatever. Space blow.
Too bad the guy that's really good at cards isn't around to enjoy it all too soon.
Oh. But yeah, and Wolverine's like, I wish the fucking professor was here. And then, hey, professor's here. I'm back, guys. What a miss. To me, my Xmen. And he's like, I can talk him down. Like, let's come up with this ultimate plan where, all right, half y'all are gonna go stop the evil Sentinel guy, and the rest of us will go up to the asteroid and get Magneto to turn the power back on, so the world doesn't go to shit. And I like that. I mean, oh fuck. Wolverine basically getting like all the adamantium stripped out of his body. That's going to be interesting next season.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the one guy that's probably the least good at fighting Magneto, like actually the only one that's finally able to draw blood on him, like fucking just like stabs him through the guts. And he's like, been in a lot of wars, bub. The brave always die first. And then, fucking Professor basically mind-jacking Magneto to force him to turn the power back on, and then you get that whole sequence, stuck in Magneto's mind where he's trying to kind of rebuild them, and you get to see a lot of that, like, kind of pain and tragedy that has forged Magneto, whereas, the press, like, I've got the same wounds that you do, but, I took it in a more hopeful path. You gotta, survive the flood.
Yeah, the sea of sorrow will drown you.
He's like, but you gotta bob up, I'm here with you, man. But then, of course, the human's like, let's nuke this giant asteroid that's like floating overhead, because that's gonna work out fine.
I mean, it's like nobody saw Apollo 13.
And all the heroes trying, T'Challa is like, hey, bro, if you do this, like, you better hope people read, because, there's no way history's gonna, forgive us for what you're about to do, because you're about to fuck everything up. And Cap and Iron Man's like, I would listen to T'Challa here, but they're like, nope, let's nuke the asteroid. But before that, you get Team 2 that is fighting the Sentinels, and freaking Storm and Forge just going full Top Gun, fucking the flying Sentinels up. But eventually everyone gets caught, and you think they're killing Jean for the like 5th time, and then it's like, nope, I got a little bit of the Phoenix left in me. It's like, I am the Phoenix, and like Storm is just like starts laughing. She's like, oh yeah, y'all about to get fucked up. We were certainly dead a minute ago, but now y'all about to get fucked up. She's up there like fucking laughing. Oh.
But I mean, just and that whole battle, and just watching Storm just fucking tornadoes and all this other shit. I'm like, fuck yes.
Oh, in that first battle where she's like, where they're fighting the Sentinels and he's like, bring the storm, and she starts like lightning the desert, turning it to glass, and then just basically makes like a glass tornado and starts shredding shit. You're like, fuck. Storm is like the most damn powerful X-Men, and you just let her off her chain. She's gonna fuck some shit up. But yeah, that and then what she does to Sinister too, like just fucking like, you've been stealing like mutant powers on, like I'm gonna burn like every bit of like, just reset you back to 100% human, and then he looks like the fucking Emperor. He goes to morph, show me my face. He's like, oh, you ugly man. It was like fucking just runs off and shit.
Fucking tail tucked between the legs.
And of course, Bastion tries to go up there and take over the asteroid, so they gotta fight him, and him just getting like just more and more like just unhinged and fucked up. The less human he becomes, he just keeps becoming more and more like a machine, and just like losing his shit to the point where they're like, all right, let's just fucking tell him the truth instead of like stop fighting him. Let's just like fuck with his mind and tell him like, no dude, like Professor, you could have been an X-Men. Professor tried to like recruit you, but your mom like told him to fuck off, and they've about got him like subdued, and then of course we're gonna blow up the asteroid and it's gonna crash and kill us all. Which if we just left the fuck alone, we would have let the X-Men handle it. But like, no, we got to blow up the fucking gravity generator and pull a fucking dinosaur 2.0.
What happened to the dinosaurs, Joe?
Theoretically, big ass asteroid killed everybody, and that's what was about to happen. And they're like, no, we're X-Men. If we all team together and work together, we can stop this. But of course, Magneto finally wakes up and he's like, Magneto lives. I'm going to stop this asteroid from falling. But then it blows up and everyone's like, the fuck? And you got Forge at the end. Like, he's got like a whole like board of like known X-Men. He's like, and then Bishop walks in, because if you go back and watch the original series, him and Bishop were friends in the future. And he's like, you got a lot of balls walking in here like we're buddies. He's like, oh, we're buddies. You just don't know it yet. And he's like, so you're trying to find the X-Men? He's like, no, they're all dead. Like, he's like, X-Men have been dead before. You're just looking in the wrong place. It's not where are they at? It's when they're at. And you're like, huh? He's like, yeah, somebody sucked them into a different time. So you and me gotta do some time traveling, figuring out where the fucking X-Men are. And apparently half the group wound up in the far future, and the other half wound up in 3000 BC with like the origin of Apocalypse. It's like, hey, we saved this guy from these Egyptian warriors, and it's like, oh fuck, we just saved Apocalypse. McCoy is just like, oh boy, this isn't going to end well.
I'm just glad that this didn't turn into a Cable just pulling everybody to a different timeline and they all live happily ever after.
Yeah, because that was the thing. When I saw the Genoshan episode, I'm like, Cable's there. They're going to hit the reset button at some point. Like, all these people can't die. And no, they never did that. They let that. They're like, no, this is like, he's like, some of the whatever mystics at Kamatar says there are fixed points in history that travel across all kind of timelines and universes and shit. So this may be something that can't be fixed. And if you look closely at that episode, which I didn't catch it till the second time I went back and watched the Genoshan episode, when the party starts and it's got that scene of like the night skyline, you see the Watcher. there's like an outline of the Watcher in the sky, and it's like, oh shit, yeah, he's here to watch this happen because this is a significant point in history. So it's like, yeah, I kept expecting them to pull a reset at some point, but like they didn't do that, which kind of made it that much more impactful. If you just kind of hit the reset button on it, it's like, whatever. But yeah, the fact they let that shit play as it lied and was kind of an impressive way to go about it. But then we get our post-credit scene of Apocalypse walking around the ashes of Genosha, and he's like, so many dead, my children, and like fucking pulls a damn burnt queen card out of the rubble, and it's like, oh, it's Apocalypse, because I mean, this is the dude that, you know, basically immortal and has like regenerative abilities. Is like, is this dude gonna resurrect Gambit? Because he did it to Morph. I mean, that's kind of what happened to, like, you know, Morph got resurrected when we thought he was dead in the first series, and kind of turned into like an agent of evil for a while until he got his mind back. But Apocalypse decided to resurrect old Remy for season 2. Are we done with the Cajun?
The Raging Cajun. I don't know. That or he returns. You know, like you said, they already did it with Morph, so I hope they don't do it with Gambit too. I mean, which, you know, hard to say. Like, yeah.
Because there's still the potential for now that everyone's like stuck in different times and shit. And it's like they didn't hit the reset button this season, but there's not saying they're not going to hit the reset button at some point next season.
I don't know. Like, as hard hitting and emotional and just, I mean, dude, this was just dark and, you know, all about trial and tribulation from the word go. I don't know that I don't think it would be wise to defer from that for, you know, season 2 and then be like, oh, we called it. This is what was going to happen all along. You know, like,
we saved the Genoshans by time traveling.
You know,
it would kind of be just a.
I think that would just be a cop out and a big letdown from everything that season 1 was.
Yeah, I do like. We didn't Of course, the mansion gets blown up. That mansion has been destroyed so many damn times in this series. You know, it gets blown up during the night of the fucking zombie sentinels. So like, we got to go to our offsite old base on Mir Island. So when they go off on that final mission, they're basically all like suiting up in like old uniforms. So it's like, I was like, oh, that's cool seeing like the kind of the classic X-Men look. You know, like Jean's got her like Phoenix outfit, and Cyclops has his old
Wolverine sporting the old like
brown instead of like he's been in like the traditional like yellow and blue, and now he's back to like the brown and khaki, you know, kind of outfit. It's like, oh yeah, seeing everybody kind of resetting to like their older style outfits was kind of a cool touch.
So yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm like everyone else. You know, most of the time when we do these, it's like, oh, you know, season 2 just wrapped. Let's go ahead and do. So now I gotta wait for the next season.
Yeah.
So now I'm in the same boat as the rest of you humans.
All right. Well, as we kind of wrap up the 90s, this Kristoff Veinte is definitely stronger than most of the Kristoffs I've had, and it's got, you know, like a chocolatey, light peppery with kind of, I don't know, brown sugar spice, like rich coffee. Yeah, so if you like those kind of flavor profiles, this is one to, you know, if you like that kind of flavor profile and you like a little bit of strength, definitely pick up one of these 20th anniversary Kristoffs. They are definitely more down my alley than some of the other Kristoffs I've had. This is a damn good smoke for a damn good show. And with that, we'll be right back with some science. And you've been watching the Cigar Nerds podcast. Check us out on cigarnerdpodcast.com and on the ESO network esonetwork.com. And don't forget, smoke them if you got them. Like, comment, and subscribe.